Hello everybody, welcome back to the workshop. So today I wanted to take and talk a little bit of why you shouldn't stretch out your coil spring. So right here I've got a bit of coil spring. Now this is not automotive coil spring, this is coil spring for a very large garage door, if you will. This changes a little bit of the dynamic, but in general the principle relies the same. So, why shouldn't you stretch out your coil spring? I'm going to explain why here now. So, there's a couple reasons for this. Number one is to conserve space. So, you want to be able to take and conserve space in your shop, especially if you have a small shop. A coil spring of this size will stretch out to over 20 feet long. And it may not look like it here, but there is 20 plus foot wrapped up in this little bundle. If you were to take and stretch it out into a long bar, then it can very easily, unless you somehow have marked it for a purpose, it can very easily get caught up and disappear in the stack of your other metal rods laying on a shelf unit or something like that, on a steel rack. So conserving space, I'm keeping 20 plus feet of material in less than a 1 foot cube of my shop. So conservation of space is one reason for leaving your coil spring wound up. The second reason of leaving your coil spring wound up is for this one main fact: stress. Now this is probably a more important one right here than anything else, is stress. So coil springs in their lifetime, especially automotive coil springs, go through hundreds of thousands of cycles. That means they're constantly being used, and usually when they are removed from a vehicle for salvage purpose, it's because they've given up their ghost. They have squatted down, they are no longer doing their job, and that means they have been stressed to the limit, and they will no longer retain their springiness. That being said, if you look at this here, you'll see a lot of videos online where they'll drop this over a post, all heat it up, grab it, and then uncoil it, right? We've all seen those videos. That is actually a very, very bad thing for the spring steel itself. And in most cases, not all cases, but most cases, pulling it like that is renting at these fibers that have been compressed and stressed out for years, and you are renting at those things, and you're just ripping them apart. And what you'll end up having is a bunch of stress fractures in the material itself. So it's a very, very bad idea to take and do that, especially on a used automotive coil spring. Now, if this is a new one, or like new old stock, factory rejects or something like that, it is okay to do that. But on something that has been in use for a really long amount of time, that was taken out of use because of failure, you do not want to do this to it. So that's the second point, is stresses, and probably one of the main points. The third point about stretching out this material, and again, pulling it all off out in length, is it actually doesn't help you make your measurements any easier. So the amounts aren't any easier to divide up. So we'll just go dividing. Oh, whatever. Dividing. You get it. I'm not going to write that. I could probably write that divide. Yeah, anyways, we won't write that right now. But anyways, it's divvying it up, right? I'll just do D-I-V. There, dividing it up. It's actually just as easy to divvy it up in small little sections on a spring coil like this. It's not that difficult. All you do is you can take a set of dividers, like so. You can set them at an exact dimension that you need, and then you can mark off sections that you need and cut it off. So a lot of people argue, well, you need it straight in order to make your measurements correctly. Well, say you're making all your tools one size that'll fit you the best. All you have to do is figure out what that is bent, which isn't very hard. You just cut a piece. Usually that'll be just about right. There's not going to be that much extra once you flatten this down. And you can just make a chop, 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 chop. So this is even quicker than stretching this out and then dividing it up and making measurements, waiting it for it to cool, and yada, yada, yada. So that's one of the third reasons for leaving your coil spring all coiled up, is it's actually not that much more efficient to divvy it up. Now these, I didn't even measure, I just eyeballed it and cut these off, and these will all become chasing tools in later videos. But anyways, I just wanted to share that quick tip about that, something to think about, you know, food for thought. It's really up to you how you want to do it. But I would take those things into consideration if I were you. Now, at any point in this process, when you're using salvage steels, tool steels, you need to make sure you go through several normalization cycles. That's bringing the steel up to critical temperature, letting it cool down to room temperature, so on and so forth, doing that 2 or 3 really good times to cycle that steel to relieve stresses. Even when you get to this point where you just chopped them off, you want to normalize these little nuggets several times before you actually go to make tools out of them. It will help you greatly and cause you not to take and have any failures. So that's it for this video. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section down below. And like always, God bless you, and we will catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.